So I struggled to decide what to wear for this show. Why? Because today we're talking about color. Is color just color? Or is it political, social, researched, and used to covertly influence us? Have you ever thought about it? Well, a lot of you are discussing this online, and it is a fascinating conversation. But what's prompted it? I'm Stefanie Dekker, and welcome to the stream, where we take digital trends in your online conversations and give them context.
So Pantone's color of the year for 2026 is Cloud Dancer, which is literally just white.
Color of the year, the void.
Is the song of the year silent?
It is a political statement. It's giving Sydney Sweeney has good genes.
It's actually rooted in racism and sexism. It's giving conservative.
It's the aesthetic version of I don't see color.
Pantone just told the world to stop thinking.
We want us all to think the same, dress the same, because this can create control over society.
Genocide live stream, far-right governments rising, open fascism in the streets. And Pantone really looked at all of that and said, yeah, the vibe for 2026 is pure white.
Anyway.
Now, it is causing quite the debate, and essentially what we are asking today is, does color have a deeper meaning? Now, it's always carried connotations throughout history, political and otherwise. Green with envy, red rage, gray areas. We associate different colors with things like health, wealth, and feelings. Now, I'm very excited about this conversation, and thank you for joining me. We've got Ingrid Calvo Ivanovic, a color epistemologist of design, research, and education, and she's also associate professor at the design department of the University of Chile and joins us from Milan. We've also got John Villa, a fashion commentator and art historian. He currently works with archival fashion within the luxury market, and he is in New York. Now, before we start the discussion, let me play this clip which tees up some of the issues people are having with this. And for those of you who don't know what Pantone is the company that is more or less universally seen as the dictionary of color. Every year, it picks one to reflect a lifestyle trend, and it carries a lot of weight.
In 2002, the color True Red was chosen in remembrance of 9/11. It was strong and powerful, said to represent all of the courage shown that day. In 2009, following the economic crash, they chose Mimosa to inspire hope and reassurance. So what does Cloud Dancer inspire? According to Pantone, it's supposed to symbolize calm amidst a chaotic world and encourage reflection and focus. It's a blank canvas for all other colors to shine, a serene foundation. I think of the opulence associated with quiet luxury, white milkmaid dresses, Swarovski crystals, and many other things that people largely cannot afford in this current economy. Not a reminder of calm in a noisy world at all, especially when so much of the so-called noise and chaos are because of the rising threat of white nationalist violence.
So let's listen to the counter-argument. Some people think it's a bit of an overreaction, like this TikTok user.
Look at your walls around you right now. Are they white? If the answer was yes, that means you're racist.
Wait, what?
And you may say, well, Ryan, that's absurd. Not according to the internet, apparently. Pantone just announced their color of the year for 2026. Pantone 114201 Cloud Dancer. Now, for those of you who may not know what Pantone is, it is a company that is known for setting universal color language. But now they're setting standards for their love of whiteness, apparently. You know, the skin color, of course. Even though their president is, black.
When I first learned the color, I thought, oh, this is going to be pretty controversial.
It shouldn't be. We're talking about paint colors, not colors of skin.
Ingrid, let's get straight to the point with the big question. Are people overreacting? Is color just color, or is there really something real to this?
So, yes, I think there is an overreaction about the intention behind this, the use of this color, but actually the problem with when we think that color is only a superficial thing, or when we think that color is something we can change every year and propose or predict color of the year, different colors of the year every time, I think that's the key of the problem, the key element of the problem. Because if we think in these ever-changing color logics, then we are very far from what sustainability is asking us today, to having this more ethical approach to color and having colors that are timeless, that can last longer in our products, in our clothes, in our fashion, in our design. So I think it's a very complicated matter. It's something that it gives the space for this controversy that we have been seeing in this month. And actually, what we have to acknowledge is the huge impact that color may have in our lives. Is something that actually can shape the way we feel, that shapes the way that we behave. It shapes the way of how we understand the world around us. It's not just decoration. It's not only this ever-changing thing or superficial thing that we can change every year. Actually, color influences mood, comfort, attention, our well-being, and even our sense of safety or belonging in a specific space or society. So for me, it's much more than a static decision, and I'm very happy actually that people are discussing about color during these days, and this has had a very interesting impact on our conversation in social media.
I mean, it's so interesting. We've had a long discussion within the team back and forth about colors, because it's certainly not something I ever thought about in that kind of a detail, as you just explained. John, you work in fashion, so I want to get into that a little bit later, but how much does the current political situation influence, I guess, the choice of color of the year, even though we don't really want to focus too much on color of the year, but more of the debate that it's causing, right? How would you say the political climate of the day impacts how people are reacting to this?
I think it impacts it quite significantly. My initial reaction to the announcement of this color, like some of the clips that you played, were that it isn't a color, which is kind of an interesting conceptual exercise in a way. And I can appreciate some of the, the merits of the messaging that Pantone have released around this color, wanting to reset and take a breath and kind of start the new year with intention. I think those are all really valuable things to keep in mind. But with the current political climate, and coming off of trends like quiet luxury, which people kind of associate with a conservative suppression of expression, I feel that the public is just on such high alert for kind of covert messaging through color and kind of infiltrating this sphere of design, of fashion, of art. And it's just not quite the right time for such an abstract experiment. In a different year, a different climate, I think people might be better primed to appreciate the message that Pantone is putting forth with this color. But in 2026, I just think it's not quite reading the room.
Because the message, what is the message? They're talking about, the world is exhausted. We're looking for respite, for relief, for emotional disconnection. The color, off-white, what it is supposed to be calming, and it's actually enraged people, hasn't it? Not everybody, but a lot of people. Ingrid, how has color played into politics? Because it is used, right? We have the Orange Revolution. We have the Yellow Vest protests in France. You have pink and purple associated with women's movements. How does it get chosen, and how do we the science behind color, if you will?
Yeah, I will start answering your question by adding to what Josh said, because and this idea also of calm, reflection, and reset behind this color of the year, for me, is very, very politic. It's let's say, this approach is assuming that in these days people can step back, reflect, start fresh, and find calm in stillness. But for large portions of society today, rest and calm are actually luxuries, not a given. So calm is usually something we purchase, is vacation, is wellness, services. On the other hand, reflection requires time, and you need to have that time actually as a privilege. So facing these approaches or these emotions are as a universal emotional ideal, maybe even unintentionally presents a privileged psychological experience as a global condition, which I believe does not resonate with the majority's reality. And that is a thing very related to how these color predictions usually are done. Usually they are, let's say, in recent years, we have studied that these color predictions are actually following more economical or market orchestration rather than connecting actually to people's real emotions and needs. And in this case, we can see that. We can see that actually this color is the choosing of this color has been very detached from what people and society is feeling today in these very uncertain times.
Well, we're talking about muted colors, which are commonly associated with wealth and the elites. What about a more colorful palette?
Back in the day, scientists would say things like, children like colorful things, so any culture that likes colorful things must be a lower culture.
Have you ever noticed that indigenous cultures around the world loved bright colors, while fascists always loved plain colors? That's not by accident. Color has always played a big part in shaping the culture, spirituality, and the identity of any group of people it's a part of. We see this in many indigenous tribes all across the world, in Africa, Asia, the Americas, and all other, even places in early Europe. But why is it that we no longer look at color in the same way? Europeans labeled societies that embraced colors as being childish because those were things that children were attracted to, and as a result, they were subordinates to them and people who could be ruled and conquered.
John, I'm going to put that to you. Colorful societies seen as lesser. What is your reaction to that? And also, I just want to ask you, you work in fashion. How does this translate to the runway, let's say, like this off-white, cloud dancer? Are we going to see this have an impact in our daily lives?
So, I mean, my reaction to that idea of cultures or people who embrace more color than less being, lesser than in any ways, I think completely false and denotes a complete misunderstanding of the nuance of color and what it can mean to different people, different areas of the globe. No, I think that's completely wrong. But in terms of fashion, white or off-white is a constant, basic, kind of staple neutral of, I think, any visual endeavor. So, most outfits start with a white base. Think of like when you go to layer in the morning, a white t-shirt is kind of the starting point for many outfits. On the runway, white dresses, white suits, these are things that have never not been a thing. So again, for the announcement of this as kind of the color of the year, which tends to sort of predict a certain color rising in popularity or starting to filter into things like the runways and decor, it's sort of not news. White has been a staple on the runways and in mass market commercial fashion forever. I'm sure it will continue to be so in 2026 and beyond, but do I think that has to do anything with kind of where we are with color at this moment? Not really. I think we would have continued to produce white clothing, both in high fashion and commercial, regardless of this announcement.
Ingrid, I want to go back. It was interesting what you were saying. I mean, obviously, this discussion is a privileged discussion, right? We're talking about color and how we analyze color, but definitely it's a reflection of how panicked so many people are about the state of the world today, and to be told, relax and just take a Zen, which would be great. But do you think, and there's been a lot of science behind this, right? Are they aware of the power of color, of how it's used, which, often is used in a marketing way, in a subliminal way to affect us in a certain way? Do we know this?
No, I really don't think we notice this, because I think color is one of the most taken from granted elements in our lives. We usually don't stop to see and see the colors around you and notice the colors around you and the effect that color has in our lives, in our daily lives actually. But actually, when we start noticing is maybe when we need color for some well-being or some emotion. But I can tell you also that not even in design, not even in arts or aesthetic disciplines, color is not even taught enough. It's something that has been taken for granted. It's something that historically has been linked to the primitive, the feminine, to some more emotional element in rather than a rational element, more linked to other disciplines that have been studied more in art, as drawing, for instance, or perspective. So not even creatives know a lot about color sometimes. But if they knew, and if people actually will notice more color and take into account the importance it has in our lives, I think we will have a richer experience of our environment. For instance, like if we think about it, color is very used for our sensation and our experience. For instance, in hospitals, we often use soft greens or blues because they actually lower heart rate and reduce anxiety. Or if we think on fast food chains, they use red and yellows because they stimulate appetite and speed, and they literally make us eat faster. Or in our cities, a simple change like painting a pedestrian crossing in bright colors can make drivers slow down and improve safety, for instance. And if we want to go also what happened
Ingrid, I'm going to have to jump in there because we just have not that much time in the show, and I want to give everyone, we still have another segment to get to, but that is fascinating how you were breaking down what color does to us physically. John, how would you briefly see color? Like, it's not, is color just color, or does it actually have physical impacts on us and mentally?
No, absolutely. Color, I think, in both art and fashion is mostly impossible to disconnect from politics, but primarily emotion. I think the art of creative production is always an emotional exercise. And even when it comes to kind of everyday fashion, when we go to get dressed in the morning, color is a huge part of what makes us feel comfortable, what makes us feel confident, how we choose to fashion ourselves and present ourselves to the world. There's other components as well, shape, texture, all these things that go into clothing, but color is probably the most visible and the most palpable for, that informs those choices that we make. And yes, I think it's impossible to kind of remove that from an emotional experience.
Okay, well, that's been a fascinating conversation. We're going to have to segue to our next guest. Ingrid and John, thank you so much for joining us today on the stream. Now, continuing our color conversation, I'm going to bring in Abbianca Makoni, a branding and sales psychology expert. She was previously an investigative and business journalist and now pivoted into sales and business development, helping brands better understand their audience. Abbianca, thank you for joining me. I am riveted by this conversation about color. How would you say, how important is color when it comes to brands using it to get our attention, to influence what choice we make?
Absolutely. Color is very, very important. At the end of the day, it shapes about 90% of the instant information that we take in to create our snap judgments of products. So it is incredibly important. It's one of the first things that we notice. And major brands like Amazon, for example, are constantly experimenting with color and different features. So one day you might find that the buy now basket is yellow, the next day it's green. And over time, they've been A/B testing. And they do this because they want to figure out which colors instantly get us to click on a product for a long time, to buy something. And I mean, Tiffany and Co., they trademarked that Tiffany blue for a reason, because it worked and associates them with luxury. So it makes a huge difference to sales as well. One famous example is Tropicana. I mean, at the moment that they changed their orange color to a lighter one, their sales actually dropped 20% in 2 months. So it makes a massive difference.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's something that I don't think enough of us are aware about, right? Well, brands, as we're hearing there, make use of colors all the time to give consumers a certain impression. Let's take a look at some popular examples.
Stop underestimating color psychology. Let me show you how it can affect your logo design and your customer's perception of you. So red is bold and full of energy, and it gives a sense of excitement and passion. It's often used in food, beverages, and services that grab attention and show strong feelings. Now, orange is a weird color. It's both friendly and creative, but can feel cautionary at the same time. You usually see it in the entertainment industry and construction because of its standout quality. Yellow is happy and playful, but also a little bit quirky. It grabs attention right away. And it's great for a brand with products or services that are meant to bring joy or have a little bit of uniqueness to it. Blue is trustworthy and calm. It makes people feel secure and professional. It's a favorite in the business world and healthcare because it builds confidence and reliability. Purple is both luxurious and mysterious. It gives a sense of sophistication and creativity. You'll find it in luxury brands, creative industries, and beauty products. Both black and white are considered sophisticated and powerful. They add elegance, simplicity, richness. You often find it in high-end fashion, luxury cars, and quality products to create a sleek, modern look.
So I want to ask you, is our reaction to color, is it universal? Does culture play a role? Do we all react to the same colors in the same ways, or how does it work?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen already that so many people have reacted differently. Some are saying it's not that deep, you're making a big deal out of it. And, that's largely because not everyone understands the history and the power of color. I mean, historically, we know that women back in the day were made to wear white, which represents purity. And then you have some communities, depending on class and race, that weren't allowed to wear certain colors or even garments. So there's a lot of history when it comes to color in itself. And some laws back in the day in Europe as well meant that purple was strictly for royalty and those that were wealthy. So color has always been used even as a tool of control in many different ways, not just in marketing, but in so many other different industries. So the reactions are very much what they've always been, which is divided. And that does come from some people not always understanding the depth and how much it's used in our everyday to control, to persuade, to get us to buy, and to make us feel things all the time.
All right, so just briefly, what is your reaction to Cloud Dancer, the off-white color of the year? And is it going to affect us?
Yeah. My immediate reaction was more so, that's an interesting color for this year. With everything that's been happening culturally, politically, and socially, people aren't necessarily calm. They don't necessarily want to be calm either. There's so much going on. People are enraged, they're angry, they're upset, outside of just the job market, everything that's been going on in the Western world and beyond. There's not that much that people are calm about right now. So for me, I thought that's an interesting choice. I wonder why. Is it an attempt to almost say, okay, I understand what's happening in the world, but it's going to be okay, and it was from an optimistic standpoint, or was it tone deaf? That's what I was trying to understand, because one would have thought perhaps with everything going on, they could have chosen perhaps a different color to represent the times.
Abbianca, I am very sad that we've run out of time and I only have time for one more question for you, even though I have so many. As a consumer, I want to draw on your expertise and get a tip from you. As a consumer, when we're looking at products, marketing, everything that is coming at us so fast these days, give us a tip. Is there a language that we can understand, sort of that'll help us make our decisions that benefit us?
Absolutely. I mean, in this economy, right, it's really important to understand the marketing psychology and know that colors are deliberately used to evoke certain emotions from us and to get us to buy. So I would say the biggest question you should ask yourself when you're buying something is, do I really need this, or do I feel like I need it? Emotion is everything in marketing. So sometimes you feel like you want it, but sometimes it's best to think logically rather than emotionally and asking yourself, what exactly do I need this for? That's what I always say. So, and just really trying to break down the colors that every industry uses. Once you start understanding that, it can help stop you buying all the time, because people don't realize it's very emotional. You're buying because the brand has used very clever psychology behind their branding, basically.
So what are just briefly, what are the colors to look out for? Like if we see certain colors, like, okay, they're doing that to catch our attention.
I mean, there's no surprise why during, these flash sales, the start of the year, and even during Christmas, it's all red, right? This urgency. And to us, it's like, oh my goodness, if I don't do this, I'm going to miss out on it. It's all the language that they use in the colors. It just makes sense, right? And then we have McDonald's as a perfect example. Yellow, what does that do? It increases that appetite. So, but I would definitely say watch out for those flash sales that are constantly using red to create this urgency, because then it can prompt this FOMO, the fear of missing out. If I don't get it now, what's going to happen? So red's one to definitely look out for sure.
Well, that is great advice, Abbianca. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a fascinating conversation, and thank you for watching. And I'm going to leave you with the words of the Dutch post-impressionist artist Vincent van Gogh. One can speak poetry just by arranging colors well. Well, for me and the entire Colourful Stream team, I'll see you soon.